Verse 3 is designed to help you read Bible passages more conveniently than ever before, and also to search for them more effectively. In this video, I'll show how this new method of reading Bible passages works by showing how I used Verse 3 during my church's sermon recently. First, I made a new file by pressing the plus button and accepted the suggested file name containing today's date. Later on, I might rename it. When our pastor said that he was preaching on the first 7 verses of Hebrews 11, I added that passage by pressing the plus, choosing Hebrews, chapter 11, and then I selected the first 7 verses by holding down my finger on verse 1 until that verse was selected, then dragging down to verse 7 and pressing Add. Now I could follow along as he read it. I noticed that he was reading from the NIV, so I switched to that translation. Later he mentioned John 14:6. I added that in the same way. Plus, John 14. And since it was a single verse, it's faster to add. Just tap on it and press Add. Similarly, later on 2 more verses were added. Hebrews 4:16, and then Hebrews 7:25. At this point, we're really benefiting from this kind of display, since we can see all the verses together on the screen instead of needing to flip back and forth. Next, let's add a note to remember something that was said about a passage. Press Add Note and then just type what you want to remember. Press Return when you're done. To see the context of any of these verses, you tap on the arrow on the right, and you'll see the whole chapter. Press here to go back. That's the basics of using Verse 3 during a sermon. Now, here are a few more things which I often do when I have time. First, I might want to compare the translations to see what English words the different Bible translators chose for the Greek or Hebrew words. You do this by tapping on the passage, and then choosing Compare Translations. This is also really helpful when you're not sure what translation someone else is reading. Going back. If a passage is taking too much screen space, you can collapse it down to one line. This is particularly useful on iPhones. You can still tap it to see its context and do everything else, including expand it back to full size. Power users can also do this with pinch gestures. If you want to change the order of the passages, press and hold on a passage for a moment and then drag it where you want it to be. You can move notes using the icon on the right, and that icon is also where you tap to see its menu. That's an example of how you might use Verse 3 during a sermon to conveniently read multiple passages, take notes, and compare translations. I hope you find it useful.